Dear students, in the last class we were studying the process of risk management, and in the process of risk management I had said there are four stages, and I was explaining the third stage, that is techniques of controlling the risk or tools of risk management. So in that we saw that major two categories, they are risk control and risk financing. And in the risk control we had seen three categories, and that we have already studied. And in the risk financing we saw three categories, that is retention, non insurance transfers, and commercial insurance. And in this I had in the my previous class regarding retention some explanation I had given. Therefore now just I will tell you what is retention, then we'll continue. So retention means that the firm retains part or all of the losses that can result from a given loss. It is nothing but very simple, retaining some portion of the money for the loss recovery. Now you are expecting well in advance that this much loss may happen this year. If such loss happens, from that amount it will be funded. But a fund is kept separate. It is not kept in paid in the insurance or no way, but in your company itself one separate fund, reserve fund, is maintained. So these studies we have seen in the previous class. Therefore I am not going to speak again regarding determinant retention levels and all. So how to pay the losses also when you are having a retention fund. Then this regarding captive insurance also I have said this. Remember that captive insurance, there is a topic in your third chapter. So be clear, this is regarding the captive insurance. See, when a particular company or particular organization is not able to get insurance for its this one, or when it finds that insurance is very costly and all, or environment is not favorable, in such situation it asks somebody else to give a what you call protection to its items, or to its what you call property. So in such cases you are hiring a somebody else outsider, and I have given best and beautiful example that in the international business and all. And so there are government rules and all. If you are a outsider, then you are this one what you call property will not be protected. In such cases another person will come for you to help it. So this is regarding the captive insurer and all. Last classes we have spoken about this, so I am not going to repeat this also. I hope this. So now I'll be speaking about the self insurance. So till their captive insurance we have spoken in the no, because captive insurance, self insurance, that all comes under retention. But these are independent topics, remember. So what is self insurance? Self insurance is a special form of planned retention by which part or all of a given loss exposure is trained by the firm. So self insurance is a special form of planned retention. So you yourself are insuring to your this one what you call losses. So that is called self insurance. There is no separate insurance company as such. Your company itself having a separate funds. So it is a kind of a retention only. So another name for self insurance is self funding. So you are going to fund, keep a fund. Self insurance is widely used in workers' compensation insurance. You see, now to give any compensation when the damage takes place, you have created a fund. So to the fund, workers from salary some amount may be contributed, from this one what you call management some contributed, and such a way you might have created one fund, and if anything happens damages to the workers, from that fund you are paid. Self insurance is also used by employers to provide group health, dental, vision, and prescription drug benefits to employees. For various benefits to the employees, if anybody becomes sick in your organization, all the facilities for the what you call health benefits are given to the employees. You can by creating a fund. Firms often self insure their group health insurance benefits because they can save money and control health care costs. In most of the organizations, they have what you call health insurance and all. Finally, self insured plans are typically protected by some type of stop loss limit that caps the employers out of pocket costs once losses exceed certain limits. So for example, an employer may self insure workers compensation claims up to 10 lakhs and purchase excess insurance for the amount exceeding 10 lakhs. So up to 10 lakhs they have their own what you call insurance facility, and about 10 lakhs if it goes from outside they can hire. So risk retention groups. So in the retention, there is another what you call term as such a risk retention groups. So government allows employers, trade groups, governmental units, and other parties to form risk retention groups. It is a retention not by one individual as such. By groups, they retain some money. So we'll see how it is. A risk retention group is a group captive that can write any type of liability coverage except employer's liability, workers' compensation, and personal lines. So anything of these they can have a create a group and retain the money. For example, a group of physicians may find medical malpractice liability insurance difficult to obtain or too expensive to purchase. See, what you call malpractice in the medical this one, anything happens liability. So they if they go for insurance and all, it is very costly. So what happens? All the physicians can form a risk retention group to insure their medical malpractice loss exposures. So for that, they themselves, not only one person, not one organization, rather many organizations join together, create a group and retain the money, and any malpractice loss happens in such cases, from there only they contribute. So risk retention groups are exempt from many state insurance laws that apply to other insurances. So every risk retention group must be licensed as a liability insurer in at least one state. So it has to get a license to have a group. So this is regarding the risk retention group. Let's move ahead. So now we have a advantages, then we have a disadvantages. So risk retention, retention has a what you call advantage as well as a disadvantage, because you are keeping a fund. You are, let's have a this one what you call concept that in risk financing means keeping a some finance, retaining some finance is a retention. So the risk retention technique has both advantages and disadvantages in risk management program. So the major advantages are, one is save on loss costs. So what happens is, you say save on loss cost means what? The firm can save money in the long run if its actual losses are less than the loss component in a private insurer's premium. What happens is, so you have retained some money, but what actually you are not undergoing that much of loss. Such times you are what you call that amount is saved. Save on expenses. The services provided by the insurer may be provided by the firm at a lower cost. So some expenses may be reduced, including loss adjustment expense, general administrative expenses, commissions and brokerage fees, risk control expenses, taxes and fees, and the insurer's profit. What it says is, when you are going for other insurance and all, you might have incurred so many other expenses like administrative and all. In risk retention, there may not be such expenses of like you have for other insurances. Encourage loss prevention. So because the exposure is retained, there may be a greater incentive for loss prevention. Yes, you have kept a fund, at the same time you see the maximum that amount is not used for a particular loss. So encouraging to prevent the loss. And then increase cash flow. Cash flow may be increased because the firm can use some of the funds that normally would be paid to the insurer at the beginning of the policy period. So there are a funds particular. So you feel what comfortable, there is a particular fund. So cash flow is very high in your organization because of the retention and reservation. At the same time, we must know that there are what you call retention is also a disadvantageous for particular reasons. Possible higher losses. So sometimes what happens, you have retained some money, but you may be incurring higher loss in such cases. So from some other places, you have to pump the money. So the losses retained by the firm may be greater than the loss allowance in the insurance premium that is saved by not purchasing insurance. Also in the short run there may be great volatility in the firm's loss experience. So possible higher expenses. Expenses may actually be higher. Outside experts such as safety engineers may have to be hired. Insurers may be able to provide risk control and claim services at the lowest cost. So sometimes if you have a insurance, you can have a lowest cost. Here retention, you may be having a higher cost because you yourself have to reconnect or renovate and with your funds. Possible higher taxes. Income taxes may also be higher. The premiums paid to an insurer are immediately income tax deductible. So remember that when you are going for the insurance and all, there are no income taxes for that such money. But the amount that you retain, there are income taxes for that. However, if retention is used, only the amounts paid out for losses are deductible, and the deduction cannot be until the losses are actually paid. Contribution to a funded reserve are not income tax deductible. Means whatever amount that you are contributing to the this one fund, that is a deductible, that will be deducted in the income tax. So next you have, after retention, another risk financing technique is non-insurance transfers. So non-insurance transfers are another risk financing technique. Non-insurance transfers are methods other than insurance by which pure risk and its potential financial consequences are transferred to another party. Just let us see some examples, then we will understand what is non-insurance transfers. Examples of non-insurance transfers include contract, leases, and hold harmless agreements. What it says is you are transferring your insurance not to the insurance company but to another party. So a company's contract with a construction firm to build a new plant can specify that the construction firm is responsible for any damage to the plant while it is being built. During a building is constructed and something happens, automatically you are not responsible. It is complete responsibility of the construction company. Even in the road and all, when you are constructing, they say 10 years warranty. So they only are responsible for that. A firm's computer lease can specify that maintenance, repairs, and any physical damage lost to the computer are the responsibility of the computer firm. So, computer makes a lease that they are just supplying you the service of the computer. So, anything happens to the computer, the company will be responsible. You are nothing to do. So, non-insurance transfers. You have no insurance for the computers and all. The company itself, you have all the computers. You are paying this much of amount per year to the company. So, they are supplying you. So another is a service giving to, take an example of the generator. Generator, you have made a what you call agreement with the company, repairs and service per year you are paying this much. So anything happen to the generator, they are responsible for that. So a firm may insert a hold harmless clause in a contract by which one party assumes legal liability on behalf of another party. For example, a publishing firm may insert a hold harmless clause in a contract by which the author, not the publisher, is held legally liable if the publisher is sued for plagiarism. So these are some of the examples for non-insurance transfers. I hope you understand. Making a agreement, contract, or giving to the lease to another party is understood as a non-insurance transfers. So let's see the advantages and disadvantages of the non-insurance transfers. So advantages: the risk manager can transfer some potential losses that are not commercially insurable. So the risk manager have all the ability to transfer some potential losses and that which cannot be commercially insurable. So for some things you cannot make a insurance. So such things you can make a agreement with the another party itself. Non-insurance transfers often cost less than the insurance. Sometimes you see, to make insurance you have to pay. Here nothing. So it will not making a just agreement may not be a much loss for you. The potential loss may be shifted to someone who is in a better position to exercise loss control. Now, for example, a computer lease you have made it. So for you, service is available. Anything happens to the computer, they manage. If it is yours, then repairers has a high charge. For them it is not a high charge because they themselves are repairing, and the company has so many computers and all. Anytime they will replace it. So I hope you understand the advantages of the non-insurance transfers. Then we have some disadvantages. The transfer of potential loss may fail because the contract language is ambiguous. Also, there may be no court proceedings and for the interpretation of a contract tailor made to fit the situation. See, contracts has small agreements. So, if sometimes in some cases for a small things and all, if they fail to fulfill, then you can't go and put a case and all, because that costs a lot and sometimes they are legally not bound. So if the party to whom the potential loss is transferred is unable to pay the loss, the firm is still responsible for the claim. Yes, you made agreement, but that another firm, another contract person is not able to bear your loss, then what you can do? They are not doing at all. So an insurer may not give credit for the transfers, and insurance costs may not be reduced. Okay, sometimes insurance costs may not be reduced. So there are advantages as well as the disadvantages of the non-insurance transfers. So now another third one is insurance. So we saw retention, then we saw we saw retention, then we saw non-insurance transfers, and now we have a commercial insurance. So this is a topic we are going to study in detail, but just for the sake of we are studying the process of risk management, I am stressing this little information. So we'll be studying with all the details regarding the insurance, meaning, definitions, characteristics, principles, everything. But just for the sake of your common understanding, now with this process we will be studying, because this is one of the risk management tool. So we are studying in this subject what is risk management altogether. Then one of the risk management tool, the insurance. So that I have made it clear of the whole subject. So commercial insurance is also used in a risk management program. Insurance is appropriate for loss exposures that have a low probability of loss, but the severity of loss is high. When there is a high severity of the loss, means that is amount to exceeds a huge amount, then you go for a commercial insurances. If the risk manager uses insurance to treat certain loss exposures, five key areas must be emphasized. What the main things should be there, it is given here. Just I'll read out, because you need not break your head about learning much about the insurance, because in the future you will learn. Selection of insurance coverages, how much will cover, that you have to look into. Then selection of insurer, there are so many insurance companies and all. So who is giving you what kind of the insurance, that you have to say. Negotiation of terms, so terms, rules and regulations, what are there, that has to be looked into. Then dissemination of information concerning insurance coverages, so all the information regarding the policy, that you have to study. Then periodic review of the insurance program. So sometimes the particular program of the insurance which they have designed, it may take some changes and all, that you have to study. So these are the things you have to keep in mind when you are going for the commercial insurance. I hope you understand regarding this. Then final stage is there, implement and monitor the risk management. So that will be seeing in another class. Then there are benefits of risk management. So that I will be explaining in the next class. But now I hope you have understood what are the risk financing techniques. In the risk financing, retention, and in the retention when we are looking into, we have also seen captive insurance and self insurance. For the short notes, there are possibility of coming that also. Captive insurance, what is captive insurance and all. Then what you call self insurance also we have studied, and that they are coming under the risk retention. After that, non insurance transfer. So without having a insurance, you are transferring your risk to another group. And examples you keep in mind, construction building or construction of the road, they themselves have to bear, or taking a service of the another company or for your all use, especially the computers, that way you think of. Then you have a insurance, and regarding insurance types, that and all things we will be studying in detail. Therefore, I hope you understand now risk financing. So two of the main techniques are used: risk control in that three methods and risk financing in that three methods. So these are the methods or the tools or the techniques of risk management. So next is the implementation of risk management. We will be studying in the next class. So thank you.